but the story, and I'm making it shorter here, but there was a woman who saw him bowing. And now I know what it's like to be out there in the gravel. You don't smell that well, you don't look that well, your clothes are tattered, etc., etc. But this woman comes out and she confronts this monk and she says, "What are you doing?" And he said that uh, he was bowing, and she's going, "Why are you bowing?" He goes, "Because I'm grateful." And she looked at him and she goes, "Grateful for what?" And the monk responded, "Well, ultimately nothing, but it's a wonderful state of mind." You too. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So,
So, what are you doing? What a way to start.
uh, I wish I felt like I really worked hard, but I don't because, well, I love what I do. Therefore, it's not it never feels like work to
Yeah.
me. Um, I get frustrated that there's not enough time in a day. I get really, it's kind of like I want to just, I think I've done, I get to put this in context. I think I've done like 35 books so far, and I've got 16 sitting. I'm ready to get out because, I did life backwards. It's like most of my youth and right up into, you know, my 50s. And I was really, I was more involved in like being with Master Liang or being at the monastery or being on my bowing pilgrimage, those kind of things. So when I turned 60, I had to go to work.
Right.
Most people are thinking of retiring. I had to get busy
Yeah.
because one thing I've learned, there's an old Zen story about a student that goes out and sits on a rock in the middle of a stream. And I'm making a long story short here, but the teacher comes out and says, "Okay, don't expect food to float across the water for you. Don't expect clothes to crawl up your back for you." And all these things. And uh, so, yeah, I felt like when I got, especially when I turned 60, is when I got really, really busy. Uh,
Yeah.
Everything else up to that was kind of just a preamble. So I feel kind of way like I did things a little bit backwards, but so be it. Like I said, I, for the most part, really enjoy my life. I feel, again, I was very fortunate uh, to have the ability, to have the experiences, and to do, just the ability to live with Master Liang for so many years, the ability to go live at City of 10,000 Buddhas, the ability to be able to be on a bowing pilgrimage. Um, all of those things um, I feel incredibly grateful for. Uh, and, I still don't get it. I'll be honest with you. I don't get it because, you know, looking at, to be point blank, obviously with the last name Olson, I'm a Norwegian guy from Minnesota. Uh, I don't know what and why I end up being able to study and meet and become friends with various people that were really skilled, way beyond me. And it just, I've never really I mean, yeah, I could say karma, et cetera, but that comes off a little egotistical. Because I'm sure I did lots of bad stuff too. It wasn't just, I mean, I'm here in a human body, so yeah,
Right. Yeah.
I didn't do everything right. So,
Right. Right.
but yeah, but I feel incredibly fortunate for most of the things in my life. Here's how I look at it. Li Yuan could be 250 years old because he didn't have to pay bills.
Right. That's
Seriously.
exactly it. You didn't have to
Yeah,
work all day,
right. I don't want if
politics.
yeah, and I'm not capable. I'm one I gotta I admit it. As much as I love Taoism and all that, put me in the forest, I'll die in a week. I don't know how to I wouldn't know how to live there.
You got your phone, you get Uber Eats, you order a
Yeah,
mattress from Amazon, a little blow up
yeah,
mattress you can tuck away.
yeah, yeah. So, it's just I'm not looking forward.
Yeah.
And there's an old Chinese statement I love. It's a greeting where they say, "May you have youthfulness within your old age."
Mm,
And as long as I feel youthful,
yeah.
yeah, I want to be here.
Yeah.
But no, if something goes awry, no, I don't want to struggle with all that junk of, having people try to keep me alive for no good reason.
Right.
Uh, and that's partially, my my uh, my love for these things. Even though I should qualify here because, yeah, I have a pretty extensive Buddhist background, and I love Buddhism. I just don't think I'm a very good one. And, I don't, I couldn't become a monk, even though I
Right.
lived there. I realized no, I can't do that.
Right.
Uh, but Taoism, because there's a difference. Buddhism, and I'm not saying they're wrong, but the idea is, life is suffering, or maybe a better translation is
Right.
life is dissatisfaction. Uh, but Taoism approaches it from life is to be appreciated. Now, both are right. I just like the mindset of appreciation better than
Yeah.
thinking about my suffering, uh,
Right.
because that gets a little, too self-involved, I guess. Oh, poor me, I
Well, your
don't,
vibration stays low if you're thinking about suffering. But when you
yeah,
appreciate, your vibration rises, right?
yeah,
And you feel better about things, even though the world's in turmoil and you maybe
well,
not pay your bills, but you feel a
yeah,
little better.
yeah. Well, it's kind of like when I was on my bowing pilgrimage. And there was a guy that would come out, and his name was Ty Cashman. He actually worked for the Dalai Lama,
Mm,
Greenpeace. He had 7 PhDs. He was a former Jesuit priest, really intelligent guy. But he'd come out, and he'd bring lunch when I was bowing, and we'd sit and talk. One day he brings out a magazine called Geo Magazine,
mm,
and in it was an article. He said, "I know you're going to want to read this." And what it was an article written about a Japanese monk in Japan, also on a bowing pilgrimage.
huh,
So I could relate to what this guy's going through. But the story, and I'm making it shorter here, but there was a woman who saw him bowing. And now I know what it's like to be out there in the gravel. You don't smell that well, you don't look that well, your clothes are tattered, etc., etc. But this woman comes out and she confronts this monk and she says, "What are you doing?" And he said that uh, he was bowing, and she's going, "Why are you bowing?" He goes, "Because I'm grateful." And she looked at him and she goes, "Grateful for what?" And the
huh,
monk responded, "Well, ultimately nothing, but it's a wonderful state of mind." And that summed it up for me. I'm really glad he brought that because that's exactly I was out there under the premise of saying I'm bowing for world peace, which
right.
was kind of arrogant um, on some levels. And because I actually quit bowing. I was somewhere in uh, just getting through South Dakota, and some guy in a big old dirty smoky car with a great big dog in it pulls up across the road, and he goes, and big beard, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I go, "I'm bowing." And he goes, "Bowing for what?" And I went, "World peace." And then he looked at me, and just like it went through me, he just went, "Who said it wasn't peaceful?"
Huh, right.
And I go, thought about it. I did. I'm the one that said it. So that kind of played on me. And, I mean, yeah, ideally, I was thinking I was going to go to California. But I realized, I mean, 2.5 years to get through Minnesota to the border of South Dakota. California was somewhere to 10 to 15 years down the road at that
So
rate.
that was like 1982. You did that,
Yeah, yeah,
and that nine steps, one bow. Is that the
yes.
what does that mean? You step nine times and then bow,
Okay, if I had
or
been, yeah, if I had been an ordained monk, I
right?
would have done 3 steps.
Oh,
But the lay people, which I
yeah.
was one of, uh, I was what they call a upasaka, you know, and I had the general rule was as lay people did 9 steps.
Okay.
Uh, but nonetheless, it on a good day, I could maybe almost get a mile on a good day. That
Jeez.
was really stepping
All
on
the
the
up and
gas.
down.
Yeah, yeah. But no, it was,
Now that
and
took you 2 years, right?
yeah,
To
2.5 years I
84,
was out there.
right?
I
And
didn't,
no,
I didn't bow during the winter time. I mean, not
okay,
on the road. I went back I went and bowed in Master Liang's garage during the
okay,
winter. It just, it was too dangerous. I mean,
yeah,
I mean, you got to keep, there's some things here that when I first went on and said I was going to do this, me and a number of other people probably thought that I wasn't going to live through this, that
mm,
somebody would do me in being in Buddhist robes going down the road. Now, but the reality of it was, uh, the police were my best friends.
mm,
They'd come out and talk to me. They were really nice, protected me. I got almost every town I went through, the mayor would come out and sit down and have lunch with me.
wow,
I found I had a new appreciation for Catholics because they actually understood what I was doing. There was enough of their stuff in their practices to realize, you know, I'm not all that different. Um, and I got a lot of respect. I only had 2 incidences where it was kind of, you know, I had some kids throw bottles at me, and I had another guy that, uh, I think he wanted to stab me, but not really.
mm,
He was, and he confessed about to me. He comes up and just starts telling me about how he's cheating farmers out of money. And he goes, I got a knife in my pocket. And I just stayed calm and, yeah, okay. Well, now,
mm,
not a good living. You should go find another job. He
right,
ended up just kind of, hey, nice talking to you. He got in his car and drove away.
mm,
But it's, I say those things, but you will notice I don't, out of all the books I've written, I've never written about my bowing
right,
pilgrimage. I can't. It is so, there's such things that within it that were, in my experience, were very powerful, but very personal.
mm,
I can talk about aspects of things I did, but I don't want to sit down and write a book, partially because I'm a little ashamed
mm,
uh, of, because if I did write the book, I'd have to call it Spiritual Olympics because it's kind of like I realized I didn't want people to think that cultivating required this kind of action
right,
because it doesn't. And I remember when I did finally decide to stop, I went back to the Zen Center in Minneapolis where I actually started it. And I told everybody, I said, I realized that the real cultivators are you guys. You have jobs, you have families, you get up every morning, you're here by 5, you're meditating till 7, you go off to work, you go to work, you come back, and you're back here by 5 again, sitting, listening to sutra lectures. And you're within all that, you have your jobs, you have your families, and here I am out there, with, I mean, I've got everybody following me, different TV stations and newspapers, uh, and to me, that was actually kind of like a little bit arrogant because I don't think cultivation should be judged like that.
Hmm.
And so I was kind of the guy, looking for the gold medal, so to speak.
Yeah.
And therefore, it was always, I just couldn't, even though I had many, many great experiences that really elevated me in what I call my spiritual development, I can't really write about it. Uh, and like I said, I was a little bit embarrassed about the fact that I was putting on such a show in many, I mean, maybe that's unfair to me to say that about myself, but that's kind of how I felt a lot of times was, you know, this is just showing off,
But
you
it's
know.
also hard work. I mean, 2.5 years, showing off is 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Two
well,
and a half years is dedication.
yeah, but
And but I understand what you're saying. What were
yeah,
some of the, I mean, I'm sure in that amount of time, like you said, you're there's transformations going on within you. Just even walking that far without the bowing, or bowing that many times without the walking, but having to count to nine, go down, bow, come back up, count, 9 steps down, come back up. I would imagine that it's a little painful at times, uh, on the knees and the joints and the low back, but then also you get into kind of a rhythm if you're not being harassed or talked to, where then you're kind of, it's almost like a trance state perhaps.
yeah. There's a lot of states you go through. I mean, I had experiences for a period of time where, and I'm not trying to elevate anything here. It was my experience.
Yeah.
I felt like my feet weren't, I mean, like I was floating.
Mm.
I just, everything felt so easy. Then there's other times, I mean, I actually had to start wearing knee pads like guys in concrete.
Yeah.
I had to have them on my elbows. Everything was getting torn apart. I was that Ty Cashman I was saying, we actually joked around about, starting a, a sporting goods store for bowing people.
The
We
Buddhist,
could,
the Buddhist,
so we could
the
sell
Zen
those.
sports shop.
Yeah, and but yeah, and it there were it's really fascinating because you go through, and plus, see, I took a vow to bury every dead animal that I came across.
Oh.
I had no idea of the killing field that goes along on highways.
Hmm.
And there were all sorts of animals. And uh, yeah, there were just experiences with that really kind of changed me because I never really thought of beforehand that it would be because I had this little shovel and it seems like every day I was digging 4 or 5 holes.
Wow.
Uh,
That's
and I,
4 or 5 in 1 mile. If you're doing a
yeah,
mile a day, that's
yeah,
quite a bit of
yeah. And I'm
work.
just doing one side of the road. I'm sure there
Right.
were more on the other side. Uh, but it was really interesting because I remember one of, and this probably means more to me than anybody else, but I was bowing, and just as I bowed down, I could see right off to my right side, about a foot, there was a frog on his back with his legs, and I could, he must have been hit something.
Mm.
So I marked my spot. I get up and I go find this old milk carton, and I took some water and I put it and I put some and I made a little house for him to
Oh,
be inside that little, so he's protected. And I put him offside the road. And I didn't think much of it. It was just like I hope he lives, but that's about the best I can do for him. And I bowed, and about 20 minutes later, the whole road in front of me is nothing but frogs.
okay.
And they're
Well,
all looking at me and croaking.
wow.
And I got up and I sat there and I just go, what is this? Because there must have been 300 to 400 frogs just
Wow.
sitting on the road
So they
looking at
got the
me.
message,
They,
and
that was my feeling. And then I sat there and I recited the Da Bei Jo, And then I said, you guys should all go off and do your little frog things. And within 15 minutes, they kind of dispersed and I never saw them again. So there were things like that that would occur that, I'm not trying to give myself any, because I still felt like this kid from Minnesota, and I still have all my prejudices and all that kind of junk that goes through. So it just took me by surprise. Different experiences that I would have with animals and people, and it and especially in the sense of how it changed me in the sense I found out how really good people are. That was the one that really changed me because there were people that, had I not been out there, I would have had different views of them. And I got to meet everybody from, just about every walk of life out there because a lot of people were just very curious. But they were very sweet. And uh, I'm presenting them with something, it's kind of like I remember one day I was on this very lonely country road. All of a sudden I see this pickup truck drive up and he parks right in front of me. He gets out of the car and he goes, I don't mean to disturb you, but I want to tell you when you get up over that hill at the junction, there's a restaurant there. And when you're done, you come in there and you can get anything you want.
Oh,
And I'm
wow.
going, well, thank you. And he gets in his truck and he drives away. So when I get up to that junction, I really do need water. I need to fill up my canteen and stuff. And so I walk into this restaurant and it's filled in guys with bib overalls and their wives. And, it's just completely farm community. And this guy, as I walk in, and there I am in my robes, etc., totally out of place.
Yeah.
And this guy says to me, uh, you know, he says, he says, I'm sorry, but you can have anything you want. It's free. He just goes, but you got to tell me, why are you doing this? And all that would come to my little brain was I looked at him and I said, this is much easier than being married. And the whole place just started cracking
I'll
up.
bet.
And he's like slapping his knee. That's right, kid. And he's going, and they became my friends.
Yeah.
They even did a picnic for me a couple of days later.
Wow.
And, it was that kind of responses that here again, context. I'm a bald headed kid in robes, with rosary beads, everything. And this is not my world, even though I was born in it, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But uh, that really was, despite the humor in that, it was really a great experience for me because it connected me with people that I would have never, because they actually would come out and stop and say hi. And, uh, I became part of because I was in there. I mean, you think about, I was in their community for about
Right.
10 days. So these are kind of like, I'm just telling these stories because they were kind of like daily occurrences with things. Some of them really sweet, some of them really sad. Like just quickly, I was bowing through this small little town and there was a little park and there was a girl on the bench, probably about 20 feet away from me. And I saw her long before I got there, but she was crying. And so as I just bowed by quietly. And the whole time that I'm bowing, as I got nearer, I could hear her sobbing.
Mhm.
And I never said a word to her, but I knew why she was crying.
Mm.
Whatever I was doing had such an effect on her. Because I had an older guy who was a World War II vet that did the same thing. He was sat there watching me and he cried.
Wow.
But he said, he goes, what you're doing is what I should have done instead of going to France and killing people. I mean, say what you want to say about that. That's,
Right.
I mean, we're all lucky that he did
Right.
level. But the other side is that you can understand personally and spiritually why
Yeah.
that just, it got to him just watching me do that. In the end, I guess I could say I'm a failure. I mean, my original idea was, like I said, to go to California because I didn't have any idea how long this was going to take. But I knew I didn't want to be out there 15 years either.
Right.
That wasn't something I
Now,
wanted.
where did you stay along the route? Because obviously, for 2 years, you're like Cain from Kung Fu, just
Yeah.
kind of walking the earth.
I
And
had a I had a little tent,
okay,
and every night I'd go try to find some bush,
to pop it up.
yeah, to put it behind so nobody would see me. I mean, there were times when different farmers would say, "My farm is up here on the right. You're welcome to use any part of it to camp out on." I had one guy, he was actually the minister of this church,
Hmm.
and his son, the little kid, he must have been about 7 years old. He told me that his son saw me on TV. The TV station showed me bowing down the road, and he said his kid was adamant that he had to come and give me a quarter so I
Oh,
could get food.
that's awesome.
And yeah, and so the little kid, before I talked to his father, the minister, the kid came up and he actually bowed. I mean, this is strange. Here's a kid whose father is a Christian minister. This kid comes and he bows in front of me and he puts out the quarter and he goes, "This is for you."
Wow.
And it broke my heart. But the father, he started talking to me and then he just said, uh, I would like you, if you want, he said you could stay. We have an area in the basement and there's a shower and you can, if you want, you could sleep there tonight. No problem. And that was a Saturday night. Next morning was church. So he comes down, he invites me, he goes, "Before you go bow, he wanted me to sit in the church." So I sat in the back in my robes and he made a point of talking about me during his sermon and about how um, because he really admired the idea of what I was doing. And even though I could see people staring at me and not, there's probably a lot of people in there that wish I would just curl up and die somewhere. But um, for the most part, it was a really good kind of reception of, and it was again almost every day something like this occurred. And that's another thing. To write it, it would have to be, that thick. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just so much that occurred. But it was for me. I didn't bow to write a book. I bowed for me because I felt a real need to do something like this. I traveled with Master Liang a lot, and I would say countless times, people like at airports, the ticket people, they go, "So do you want your father to be sitting?" And I'd look at him, I go, "Do I look Chinese?" And they would always go, "Oh yeah, come to think of
Come to
it."
think of it.
I was so, embedded with him that people
Right.
kind of just took it as he must be my father, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "No, I don't think I look Chinese." Uh, but students have said I've kind of morphed into him a little bit that
Well,
I
just seeing you now, and when we first got on, I thought, boy, you've got some of his features, like at
Yeah,
a first glance, with if I squint my eyes a little, like your mouth and jaw looks a little bit like his,
I
you know,
understand.
and that's what happens when you're around somebody so long and
Oh,
working with their energy. And
and I can imitate him
yeah,
perfectly. I spent too much time with him. So yeah,
yeah,
if I want to be TT Leon, I can be him.
yeah.
Uh, simply because I just spent so much time with that man.
So, for our viewers who don't know, T.T. Liang was a famous Tai Chi master who was a student of Cheng Manqing, correct? And if you would like to give a little more background there on how you met him and came to basically become his apprentice who had to steal his art to capture a title of your book.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a little bit, please.
Okay. Well, sure. First of all, you got to keep in mind, TT was an incredible man. He uh, he rose up through the ranks. He was actually the highest ranking uh, uh, British custom official.
Hmm.
He worked for the British. He controlled most of the eastern seaboard. He was
Wow.
only one man higher than him, and that was this Mr. Livingston, who lived mostly in London. But TT was in charge of all this, which is why he said, you know, he said his teacher mastered poetry, medicine, Tai Chi, painting. And TT goes, yes, he did. But he said, I mastered opium, alcohol, cigarettes, womanizing, and gambling. He goes, but
So
he
he's
said,
the master of the second five elements.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But he said, but it's true. He
Yeah,
said, but then I outlived him too.
yeah.
I mean, he did. TT was supposed to die at age 45. He
Wow.
was a really wealthy man uh, in
Hmm.
China. And, that's another whole side of the story. But the thing for me was I was coming back from the monastery back to, my family's all from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I came back and was going to prepare because I wanted to bow from the Minnesota Zen Center. There's a teacher there, Roshi Kataguri, who was just, him and I were really good friends, really enjoyed him. And so anyway, I was going to start my bowing from them. Now I was thinking, uh, it would be nice. I didn't really realize a lot of things that I was going to be getting into, but I thought, wow, I should learn Tai Chi. So I have this other exercise to do while I'm out there, in my spare time. Which, so I went and there was a Tai Chi place, studio. And I went there, but I really didn't like the teacher. I thought he was kind of a creep. But one of his students, this Vern Peterson. I really liked him. Him and I became instant friends and still are to this day. Uh, and so he said, well, if you want to just learn Tai Chi, I'll teach it to you. So I started learning from him. But about 2 months into that learning, uh, he told me one day, uh, he says, do you know who Master T.T. Liang is? And I went, yeah, I read his book about 6 months ago. And he goes, he just moved to St. Cloud.
Hmm.
You want to go see him? And yeah, because I was more interested. I knew he translated that book of his was translations. And that's what I was interested in. So I said, yeah, let's go see him, because maybe he can tell me something. Anyway, TT and I we shared the same kind of sick sense of humor. we basically we just got along really, really well. And so I went up like 3 times to have lessons with him each week. And finally, on that third one, he said, and he finally caught on. He said, so you're going to do 9 steps, one bow? And I went, yeah, I'm going to leave in late March. And this was like November. And he said, why don't you come and live here until you go?
Hmm.
And he said, maybe I can show you some Chinese. Well, he did, but he also got me up every morning to follow along with Tai Chi that I didn't. But the problem was for me is he was 82, I was 32. And I'm not, he would try to show me how to use Tai Chi, as a means of self-defense. And I couldn't, I mean, I didn't know anybody in their 60s that could do what he was doing. I could not get the better of him ever, no matter how much effort I put into it. And that impressed me. And I just decided he's 82 and he's this healthy and he's that active. I want half of what he's got. So I kind of made a prize. I said, when I'm done, can I stay here during the winters and bow in your garage, but also learn Tai Chi? And he said, yeah, fine. So that's how it all kind of started, you know. Uh, and now he really became like the father I never had, and I grew very close to him. I look back on it now, and it kind of hit me. And this is recently. It was like 2 years ago. I got a call from a guy. He said, "My name is Mr. Wang, and I live in China." And he goes, I called, I was looking for you because people told me if I wanted to find out information about Dong Sai Liang, that I should talk to you. And he goes, I called the Jin Soon Tai Chi Club, which is like the big one in Boston, been there forever. And they said to him, well, if you want to know about T.T. Liang, you have to talk to his godson, Stuart Olson. And I didn't know that the Chinese community looked at me that way.
Yeah.
I mean, but, the story was kind of funny because I found out that, because TT was really wealthy when he lived in China,
Mm,
he had lots of concubines. And this was a great grandson of his, a
right.
whole family that I knew nothing about that
Mm,
TT never mentioned to me. And because what it was is his grandma was one of TT's concubines, and she just wanted to know what happened to him. Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I met lots of like William Chen and there. I became friends with Jimmy Young and all these guys that knew TT. But it was kind of odd to hear, that the Chinese community was referring to me as the godson, which to me is a real honor, but
yeah.
I never heard that before.
Mm.
TT would sometimes call me his adopted son, and then he would immediately after that say, "But you're an asshole," and because he wouldn't keep things straight. He had a great sense of humor. But
Yeah.
anyway, uh, that's how it began, and it began not with me wanting to learn Tai Chi. That I developed simply because of his skills and what I just had no context beforehand. I
Right.
mean, he really could take care of himself. Yeah, I never looked at him as a martial artist because he kind of nixed that idea. He said that's the mistake most Tai Chi people make. They want to imitate the Kung Fu karate people.
Yeah.
But that's not what Tai Chi is about. He goes, read the text. It's about yielding, learning how to lose. So I kind of redefined the idea of I don't use the word self defense in connection with Tai Chi. I use the term defense against the self.
Yeah.
TT taught me it's your mistake. If you get beat up, don't blame anybody else. Blame the fact that you didn't know how to get out of it, that
Mm.
you didn't know. It's not about beating other people up. What's that going to solve? Nothing. But learn not to get hurt. That has a lot of, and it has more meaning than just, somebody wanting to fight you. It has meaning everything in our daily life. It's, I mean, just one simple example of how we use tension and stress. Think about somebody in an office with a pencil and they keep breaking the lead on the pencil. And then they go, God, why do they buy such cheap pencils? No, you're pressing too hard. You know, and we do that with a lot of things. We're the ones creating our own injuries, so to speak. Uh, and so TT was, despite, he had one of the most incredible backgrounds, 15 incredibly great teachers
Mm.
because he was rich. He could have, and they wanted him as a student. He was very famous in Asia.
Yeah.
Uh, so, but I was very fortunate for that because uh, being Buddhist and all, I didn't want to be a fighter. I really didn't, but I really liked that concept of yielding and learning how to lose in order to win. And
Right.
I could just see it. If somebody's going to push on a wall and that wall disappears, they're in trouble. They hurt themselves. It's not
Right.
me doing it. I just got out of the way, you know. But I think the biggest, as TT said, the biggest skill in Tai Chi is to learn not to put yourself in positions of fighting.
Hmm.
That is an art and a skill all of its own. And you know, I remember my friend. I mentioned him, Roshi Katagiri. You know, they built the Zen Center in Minneapolis, and he went down to this little shopping area once. He was in his Zen robes and everything, and some guy came up and, uh, because Katagiri said when he was young he learned judo.
Mm.
He said this guy came up and said, "Give me your watch," right? He said, which was, valuable to him, but he said, "I did my best judo that day." And I go, "Really? What did you do?" And he went like this.
Yeah.
I gave him the watch. There was no fight. He goes, he said, "My teacher taught me if you can have no fight, that's the best judo." And to me, yeah, it's defense against the self because I'm the one that makes the mistake. I put myself there. So karma.
Yeah. Sometimes instant karma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I've never really there's only a couple times I've actually had to kind of use what TT taught me, but mostly it came down to wherever we went and taught, TT would, he had this thing where he would find the biggest guy in the class and he would look at him and goes, "I will give you $100 if you can crush this Stuart into a pancake." Every time. He did it every time. It wasn't any great skill. I look at Tai Chi as great physics.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a martial artist to use it. But anyway, I would, be able to get them down. And the result of that is that all weekend, nobody would bother me. I could teach. I could go through and because the big guy went down, so they're not the other ones are it's stupid because uh the big guy just didn't have a sense of balance. He wasn't trained. And uh, so but I remember when I first asked TT about that, "Why are you doing that? I'm going to get hurt." And then he went, "No," he said, "then everybody will leave you alone and we can teach peacefully." But anyway, it's just TT, I mean, there's lots of, stories from Young Jingming and William Chen and BB Chun, all these people, Joe Sung-Hwa, etc. I mean, they were all looking at me like, "You have to learn this," what TT called bungda,
Mm.
which was this ability to take you off your center in an instant because you're on your tiptoes. And then an 8-year-old can knock you over. And they're going, "We never quite learned that from him. They were all pushing me because they all felt it, they all experienced it, uh, and even though those guys, I mean, William, they're all very skilled. I mean, he was playing tennis with Chiang Kai-shek and, he knew Sun Yat-sen, all these people. So everybody kind of had this, he was in the elite
Yeah.
category. So people kind of feared him and he had no patience with people, when it came to learning Tai Chi from him. Um, as one guy said, he would hurt you before he helped you. But when he got to the United States, and I talked with TT about this, and he said, "In Taiwan and China, I was a big wig." He said, "When I came to the United States, I was a gook." And he goes, "People would run into me and push me and say, 'Get out of my way,' and all that." He said they didn't know who I was. So they had no fear about me or about what I might do. And he said, so they treated me like this poor little Chinese guy. And he said, I realized I had to learn to adapt. And I think my biggest thing about respecting him falls into the category of because he's the only person I ever met that actually changed 180 degrees.
Mm.
Most of us talk about change, but that relates to diet, you know, um, you know, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to do that. But to change your nature,
Yeah,
to
180. Coming
that's,
here then was almost like,
yeah,
you know, transformative nature of being out of place. You know,
yeah,
he
he
was he
was.
was no longer the person he was, and he had to reinvent himself.
I learned more with TT about how to live than how to do Tai Chi.
Right.
Truthfully, I mean, I learned a lot of Tai Chi, but his examples of how to be a good human being, which I haven't always lived up to, but I try. Um, and but those were the lessons that have meant the most, because I from him, I guess the one thing I've really learned, and one of the things that I would really like to talk about is all of these things. You learn Tai Chi, you do meditation, you do all these things. They're all about living well.
Mm-hmm.
But Taoism goes into the whole art of dying well,
Yes.
because all of us are going to die. I'm sorry. I believe in immortality, but I believe in the way the old Taoist Changpo Tuan put it, spiritual immortality.
Yes.
I can live forever in my spirit if I cultivate it and wake it up and all that. But my physical body, that's going to go,
Yeah.
no question. But the real question is, am I going to die well or not? Because I looked at TT, uh, you know, he died by he took a bath, put on his new pajamas, put his bed up, so he was sitting kind of upright, passed away.
Wow.
I've known three other teachers that did that same thing.
Hmm.
But I've witnessed two deaths. They're not pretty.
No.
They're ugly. And there's all sorts of terrible things that happen when a person dies. And, but you think about 911 calls, ambulances, people crying, screaming, you got all these strangers around you doing stuff. That's not a good way to die. And, I want to die peacefully. I want to just stop, and the nice part about, I don't know if it's nice or not, maybe I shouldn't say that, but when TT turned 102, I teased him, and we were on the phone, and I said, this is his birthday. I go, wow, you made it to 102. And he goes, yes. He's all boastful, and I go, and you always told me you'd live to be 100. And he goes, yes, I had to prove my art was good. And then I go, but now you're 102. I think you're showing off.
Yeah.
And he literally went, oh, goddamn, do not want to show off. He had this really good way of, because we had discussions like once in a while, we talk about death. And he looked at me, I remember one time we were driving, he said, when you go to bed at night, are you afraid? And I go, why would I be afraid? He goes, what? You have no guarantee you're going to wake up.
Yeah, but
Why
you
aren't
won't
you?
know.
Yeah. And he go, why would you fear that? And I'm just going, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to wake up.
Yeah.
And he goes, that's exactly how you should think about death. Be very certain it's not what they say it is.
Yeah.
Your spirit is still going to be
Wake
there.
up. Yeah.
No need to fear death at all. He goes, in some ways, welcome it. Take the fear out of it.
I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. Um, I started being pulled toward the teachings of Hsuan, um, and Hsuan, who, you know,
Yeah.
that's your lineage in Buddhism. And, you know, um, I've got both their pictures up on my altar here with the Heart Sutra between them. And Heart Sutra is one of the Heart
Mm-hmm.
Sutra and Lotus Sutra that you've studied. Um, and I always, had wished I was able to, or had the chance to go to the city of 10,000 Buddhas and meet Master Hua. But you took refuge there. You became a disciple
Yeah.
there, And you had another student of Hsuan was your teacher as well. So you had like two lines from the same master
Mhm.
from there. What led you to that? Was it proximity to where you were living, or what brought you toward kind of that Chan Buddhism and that particular line, or just happenstance?
Yeah. My story's not all that interesting. I do have to tell you what it was.
Yes, please.
I was in living in Minneapolis, and I was really good friends, and I was living with a girl who worked for it was called Gnostica magazine.
Hmm.
And they were all into the Wicca, you know, and I wrote some articles on Chinese stuff, and I became the owner, him and I became very good friends, etc. And one evening, but so I'm involved. Yeah, they had a bookstore, and that's where I first, got my like Taoist yoga book from when it first came out and all that.
Was
Uh,
that Charles Luke's book, Taoist
yeah,
Yoga? Yeah,
it's a great
Luke
book.
Kuan Yu. Yeah, good book.
So anyway, I one evening we were living in St. Paul. I went over. There was a really cool bookstore that had lots of spiritual Asian stuff, used books. You can get them really cheap. So I went there, and I went in the back, and there was a book called, I just saw it. It was a little green book, and it said Sutra in 42 sections.
Wow.
So I take it. It's just a little book, and they want $3 for it. But what happened was I opened it up. Right there was a big, a full page picture of Hsuan sitting in meditation.
Mm.
To this day, I don't know exactly what happened, but I looked at that picture and I went, he's real. I've got to meet this man.
Yeah.
So I bought the book. I stayed up all night and read Sutra in 42 sections,
Wow.
which is basically explaining the levels of arhats. And I thought, if I go meet this man, I should be able to get the first one, stream entry.
Right.
That might be open to me. And the girl I was living with at the time, I just said, I know this is going to be odd, but tomorrow I'm leaving. She
Wow.
goes, where are you going? I'm going to the city of 10,000 Buddhists. I don't care. And I remember these thoughts. I don't care if I have to live in the closet with the cleaning buckets.
Right.
I have to go meet this man.
You felt drawn and compelled.
Yeah, really drawn. Next day, I was on a bus to California,
Wow.
and that's how I ended up uh,
Now, were you a
meeting Chun.
teenager or
No,
20?
I was. This is the interesting part. I was exactly 29 years old,
Huh.
and I arrived the very next day. This is in November. I forget the exact date, but the very next day, Jim Jones kills everybody down in Guyana. My family's freaking out
Right.
because Stuart got on a bus and went to this weird spiritual community, and he's going to drink Kool-Aid.
Right.
And I had to assure them that, first of all, I couldn't find the Kool-Aid. They don't have
You were
it.
looking for it. You couldn't
Yeah.
find it.
And uh, but yeah, that settled down. But it was really fascinating to me because to this day, everybody, for the most part, not everybody, but most of the people that I interacted with at City of 10,000 Buddhas, and I cannot explain this, but I knew who they were.
Wow.
I just couldn't say their name. I became very good friends with a number of guys there. And that whole time, I know you, but I can't remember your name kind of idea. And he goes, well, my name's Peter. I go, no, that's not your name. There's something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to be all
Do you think
anything
that's
about
like
it.
a past life thing where,
Yeah, it had to
yeah,
be.
right.
Because then Hsuan once in a lecture that we sat through, and he said right at the end of it, he said, which really hit home with me, he said, I've never told all of you this before, but we tried doing this back in the Tang Dynasty,
Ah,
but we didn't completely finish. So now we're back here. Now we got to get it done. You all have a job to do. And that really hit home because there were just too many weird things.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I can't even explain some of them. I don't know where they came from, but uh, so my thing was, uh, I just considered myself really lucky. I mean, and now, it's for me, it's like I'm in communication with a couple of people that
Hmm.
they're still involved, and one guy still lives there. And, you know, it's kind of it because now on YouTube, there's all sorts of things with Shenhua.
Yeah, I've been watching them over the
Yeah, and I
years.
don't even recognize the place because when I was there, they just bought it
Ah.
and we were redoing buildings, and the statue, the thousand hand, thousand arm, that showed up, but that was all rosewood. It hadn't been gilded yet.
Mm.
And the images, literally, I'm Alan Nicholson, the guy that did this out there. He's the woodworker. They have 10,000 gold images, ceilings,
Mm.
walls, everywhere in this hall. None of that was there. We just had bare painted, peeling walls. Uh, and so I look at it now, I don't recognize most of it. Uh, but it makes me, and I don't recognize the people.
And you
I
don't
really
feel
don't.
compelled to go back, right? Since that time, because it's like,
No, I don't. I went back once, and this is when I was still married to this Chinese girl. And we went back, and it was interesting. The guys that I knew really well, we were all happy to see each other, blah, blah, blah. And then I wanted to go show her the hall, the big hall. And we walked into it. And as we're there, this Chinese nun out of Taiwan, I had never met her before. And all she was trying to do was sell us videotapes and cassette tapes. And I'm trying to explain to her, I helped build this, and we're just here to reminisce and look at it. And she goes, "Oh, but in the back, we got many things for." It's like she didn't even hear me.
yeah,
Uh, we hung out for most of the day, but uh, it was different. And I just kind of like, I don't know that I could be here anymore. It's too different for me now. When I was living there, one of the things I discovered about me was I'm such a putz that I needed a teacher to look over me. City of 10,000 Buddhas, keep in mind, is clerical, monks and nuns. So you're following a program when you think of teaching. Whereas in like City of 10,000 Buddhas, Buddhist monastery, huge place, there isn't one meditation class, not one.
really. Hmm.
Yeah, they don't teach you. You learn by following what monks do. You
Hmm.
get up at 3:30 in the morning, you sit the 2 hours, you just follow until you get it. Um, Whereas I wanted somebody that was on me every day, and that's what I got with TT.
Yeah.
And I needed that. I needed somebody, to call me on my stupidity and to make me work for it, basically. Whereas I didn't feel that at City of 10,000 Buddhas. I felt I learned a lot, grateful I could sit through all those lectures and be around people and all that. But I never felt, even though I'm a disciple of Xuanhua, it wasn't that kind of teaching. It wasn't Stuart, come here.
Right.
It was not that scenario. You were just part of the whole group learning, and that's fine, it has its uses. But for me, I needed something more individual
Yeah.
because I didn't feel that I had enough background.
Hmm.
I mean, keep in mind, I probably sat, maybe 20 minutes a week before I went there. And then when I get there, when I finally move up to the City of 10,000 Buddhas a few weeks later, I'm thrust into a Chan session that is 22 hours a day.
Hmm.
You get to sleep 2 hours, you get to eat once, but the rest is all meditation. Now, after the first week, you could have put me in an institution. And if I had driven out there, I probably would have left. It
Yeah.
was that intense. But after the second week, it got a little better. Third week was really nice, but it's such hard work
Yeah.
and lots of great experiences. I got it. It's part of my makeup, but uh, I needed I needed a teacher,
And you
and I
met
found
Your first Taoist teacher there. Is that correct?
well he was he was a professor teacher kind of idea,
Got it.
uh, a Professor Wu Yi. Yeah, he was really a cool guy, and he taught me a lot about the Tao Te Ching and about he kind of introduced me into the ideas of Taoist alchemy, so to speak. But there are a number of other people that would show up
Right.
that also had, you know, they were learning, and you got such a variety of people. Uh, but I met all sorts of people. I mean, one of my favorites was, I'm sure you've heard of, touch therapy. And the woman that started it, Dr. Dolores Krieger, she was one of the most incredible people I ever met.
Wow.
She drove me to the airport in San Francisco, and we, 2.5 hours we got to talk. And she told me her story about how this all developed. And Hsuan was convinced she was a sage,
Hmm.
and she had a whole approach to this that you don't find in the New Age world. And I just hope that I put it. My hope is that I put it all to good use. I'm trying to, but
Well, you've done great work translating tons of texts. I
well,
mean, the
yeah,
one I'm
well,
reading right now is Jade Emperor's classic,
that's
Mindset
the
Classic.
that's the first Taoist book I did.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I just found out that it's being uh, there's a guy that's going to help me translate, I guess, some text. He's an American, but he translates for the Taoist Association in China. He's there now, and he told me he said you don't know how many times I've come across your book here at White Cloud and other
Mm-hmm.
Taoist monasteries. He goes, they use it.
That's crazy.
And it is crazy. I go, it's in English. What do they know?
Right.
And he goes, yeah, but when foreign students show
Wow.
up, and there were a few
That's quite a
teachers that
compliment. Mm-hmm.
it's a it's a huge compliment to me,
Yeah.
simply because you know being a round eye to have them, and I mean, I found out certain things, like some of my, like, imagination becomes reality was uh, that was put into most of the foreign hotels
Hmm.
in China
Wow.
during that whole thing with Healing Mind with Bill Moyers.
Mm-hmm.
They used his book and my book and sold it as a package.
Wow, no kidding.
Yeah, and which I never thought Imagination Becomes Reality was that great of a book. Uh, but it served a purpose. It was showing Tai Chi, it was in English, and they could the hotels could market it, I guess.
Yeah.
But it is a big compliment. Uh, but I know for my own purposes that has more to do with TT than me. And it really taught me about my teacher and how, and I've had that same thing. Even in Indonesia, I went to a Theravadist Buddhist. They had a little retreat place there with all these little tiny meditation houses.
Oh,
And I
nice.
went there and I talked to the teacher, and he goes, where did you learn your Buddhism? And I go, well, I lived at City of 10,000 Buddhists. He goes, Shwanwa. And he immediately jumped
Wow.
in. And I go, yeah, Shwanwa. You met Shwanwa. I go, yeah, he was there when I was there. He
Right.
didn't like pay special attention to me, but
Right.
I
We were in the
saw him.
same room.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
him every day. I said hi.
Right.
Uh, no, it's yeah, but Chunwa, even in China, me and a couple guys went there, and we went to in Shanghai, the reclining Buddha temple,
Hmm.
and beautiful place, you know. But when we were done seeing the reclining Buddha up there, we went downstairs, and I noticed that there was a hall, and I went around the corner, and they had this beautiful image of Guan Yin.
Mm.
And then there was like 4 or 5 Chinese ladies sitting over in the corner drinking their tea and gossiping. And over on the other end was this old Chinese monk just sitting in a chair. He was obviously put in charge to watch things, I guess. But I thought this was a great opportunity. Here I'm in the temple where Yun taught, right? So I'm going, I'm not leaving here until I recite the Da Bei Jiu. So I go over and I light the incense and I kneel down and I do the Da Bei Jiu, 3 times. When I'm done, first of all, the old ladies were like, huh? Like,
Right.
round eye, what are you doing? They were just kerfuffled by this whole thing. But as I started walking out with my friends, the old Chinese monk, he goes, oh, 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 he calls me over. Now, my Chinese was, I read Chinese much better than I speak it
Yeah.
because I don't get to speak. But anyway, so he calls me over and he looks at me with his finger and he goes, Shudi, Shuanhua,
Ah, nice.
disciple of Shuanhua. And I
Hmm.
went, I understood. I went, yes. And so anyway, then he gets this other monk who knows English pretty well, this younger one. And when we have a conversation, and I go, how did you know I'm a disciple of Shuanhua? And he goes, because you do old way. He said, Shuanhua, because he was here. He was certified by Shuryu and all that stuff.
Mm.
And he goes, you had a way of how you bow, how you light incense. All those are, he goes, every school has their own way. And he said, you did it the old way from here. He goes, so I knew you're American. I knew Shuanhua in America. You had to be Shuanhua disciple. And I went, you're clever.
Nice.
Because I don't know that I would have caught that, but
Right.
he saw it all. He just
Wow.
the way, and even the way I recited it was different than because he said a lot of the way he was putting it, the way that a lot of people recite it, comes out of the whole idea of what they call this kind of southern from Nanjing kind of
Mm.
accent with it. It's very high pitched and it's Namo la da da do, and they go very fast. And he goes, you were Namo la da no do la ye ye. And he said that's how we always did it
Yeah.
here. And so Xuanhua's influence, again, it's not, and I'm trying to make this clear, it's not me. These guys, their reputations and what they did was so phenomenal that even if you're slightly connected to them, people want to hear about it. And I have been caught in that many times where they're, tell me what it was like when you were there. And I'm going, boring. Yeah, and on those days off, I rake leaves, I trim bushes,
Right.
you know, tried to find ways to get into town to go to Taco Bell, all
Hmm.
this kind of, all this kind of stuff. And so unfortunately for me, I didn't really have a context of how important these people were when
Right.
I met them. And that came later. And I mean, I'm now seeing Xuanhua was, even though I saw lots of things and I was amazed by him when I was there, but since then I've learned so much more about everything he did,
Hmm.
that it's mind-boggling. And I feel, even though I'm not giving myself any great credit for that bowing pilgrimage, but if it wasn't for him, I would have never done it.
Yeah.
And I've gotten real comfortable with the fact that I did what I could do. I did exactly what Xuanhua told us to do. When I first entered and came to San Francisco and went to Gold Mountain, over the door, just as you were ready to leave, he put up a sign and it says, try your best.
Mm.
And that's all any of us ever can do. And awakening to one's consciousness, being mindful, is not enlightenment. And it's nowhere near. You know, if you start reading things about like Shuryun, Hsuan, uh, mindfulness was something they had when they were two. You know, uh, it's not it's not the object of cultivation. You're leaving out all the things about the spiritual penetrations. You're leaving, not one of those people would be able to tell me up, that they had recognition of past lives or any of, they're just not able to access
Yeah.
their, what I would call their Tao mind or their Buddha mind. Yes, all of us can be quiet, tranquil, have a nice experience, and feel like we've connected with our consciousness. Yes, that's a good thing. Most people don't even get that far. But I don't like that they treat it as if that was the end goal. They're treating themselves as this, literally, they're a physical human being trying to have a spiritual experience. That's why we're cultivating. That's why we do that. We want to have, we got experience desire up the yazoo. Please let me see bolts coming, thunderbolts out of my fingertips. I want to see Buddha. I want to do. So we're coming from the standpoint of this physical body saying we want these experiences. When the truth of the matter is, and this is the truth, we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, and our job is to clean it up. We're here in this body because of retribution. Clean it up. That's how our spirit is awakened, not the other way around. The physical body is not going to do that for you. You have to clean it up. That's why you hear all this stuff about tranquility, clarity, you know, uh, like I love Lao Tzu's things about all you have to do is be frugal, kind, and have humility. You'll be a good human being. That's cleaning yourself up.
Yeah.
So you are this spirit. You're here. You got here because of your spirit. As Taoism puts it, there was a primordial spirit. It was there before you were born here. It's here now, and it'll be there after you leave. The job is to clean up your retribution. That's what you're doing by achieving what Taoism simply puts as clarity and tranquility. You want clarity. If you have clarity, you're going to die well. If you have tranquility, you're going to live well. And they're all the, if you really read Chuang-Tzu and you really read Lao Tzu and even a lot of Buddhist books, they're saying exactly what I just said here. Don't approach it that you are a physical body trying to have a spiritual experience. That's backwards and it's frustrating, and most people never accomplish anything. But if you know, excuse me, clearly that you are a spiritual being. That's how you got here. You're in your mother's womb. You were a little spirit, and once we came out, the work started.